All right. It's the 6th day of September, 2015, and this is the Radical Agnostic, the place where ideology goes to die. Broadcasting from the Sonoran Desert in Tucson, Arizona, in the beautiful Southwest, where the weather is finally getting bearable. My name is John. I'm your host. My co-host, as always, is Mark.
Hello.
We got Brian Richter, mic number 4, the stowaway guest. What's up, my man?
Not much, man. Chilling.
Awesome. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
The crew is back. Everyone's here. And our guest today, it's my pleasure to present Chris McGuire. She's a social worker in a hospital emergency room and a woman of many talents and much knowledge. We're very glad to have you here. Thanks for coming, Chris.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So, as usual, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We did, right before we started recording, we started talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as the environmental disaster caused by the EPA that's currently affecting Navajo people. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about some trends in political correctness, such as speech policing on campuses across the country. And a recent article came out sort of condemning that. So we're going to get into that. Maybe a little politics, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Immigration. We're going to talk about that because it's always an issue here in the Southwest. Here in Tucson, it's always an issue. But it's getting worldwide attention right now because of the migrant crisis of tens of thousands of Syrians are leaving their country and trying to get to European nations like Austria and Germany through Hungary. And some horrible things have happened recently because they're floating out there on rafts, and a little kid, the recent picture of a little kid washed up dead on a beach. Pretty heartbreaking. So we're going to mingle the topics of Arizona immigration with that issue as well, and the things that Pope Francis said about that recently. But first, let's do the good stuff. Kim Davis, American hero.
American idiot.
She, this is the woman, she's a county clerk in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And KY.
KY.
And coming at you, it's Johnny and the Pig on KYX. And so she is a county clerk. I guess these are the people that hand out marriage licenses. So a couple of, several gay couples have recently come to her to obtain their marriage license, and she refused them, regardless of the fact that federal law now requires all government officials to give marriage licenses to gay couples.
Well, not all government officials, but
just
the ones that do that.
The ones
job.
that are responsible for issuing marriage licenses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because if it was all government officials, it'd be easy. Like that, she wouldn't even be a problem then.
Yeah.
They could go to their postman.
Yeah. We wouldn't know her name, and that would be okay.
Yes.
It would be, and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about. Because so she denied them, and then she was sued, or it became a legal issue. She appealed the law, or went to court. It was thrown out. Appealed that, thrown out. Third appeal recently went to the U.S. Supreme Court, highest court in the land, and they said,
"Do your job."
Well, what they say usually is, we're not going to listen to this case. And they tell you to respect the decision of the lower court, which is what they said. They said, no, we're not going to hear this case. You have to do what the lower court said, and that's that. And now she's doing a fourth appeal right now from jail because a federal judge decided that instead of fining her, he found her in contempt of court for not doing her job, and now instead of fining her, he thought he would put her in jail. So all she has to do to get out is just say, "All right, I'll give them the licenses." That's all she It's not like she has to serve out a sentence or anything. She's just in there for an unknown amount of time until she decides to do her job or resigns. She could also quit her job and get out of jail that way. But So this is, of course, very controversial. People are calling it a religious freedom, a violation of her religious freedom. Now, here's the thing.
I have harsh shit to say about that, so don't ask me if you don't want to hear how fucked up what I'm going to say is.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, man. Opine.
Fuck that bitch. Fuck that hateful, sorry, fat bitch.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it. This has shit to do with religious freedom. It's about being a bitch. And fuck you when your freedom infringes on somebody else. It doesn't give you the right to hate people and stop them from doing what they want to do in their life, especially something as innocuous as getting fucking married so that they can have the benefits that other people who are in love with each other have. And I'm going to break it down for you. So much fucking hate in the world. If you're that against people who love each other, you're part of the fucking problem, bitch. Stay in jail. Drop off the fucking face of the planet. We need less shitheads like you.
Right.
I'm out.
It clouds the issue that she's not respecting the Constitution about separation of church and state, and that's the reason that she's
I'm pretty
in
sure,
jail.
yeah.
And
And
that's
more
been totally
specifically,
lost.
she's not doing her job.
She's
She's
not doing her
violating the
job.
law.
Yeah, you're an
Yes.
elected official, basically. Isn't she elected?
She's an elected
Yes.
official. That's why she
Yeah.
can't be fired.
Right.
So she could be removed from office by a referendum or
It's like
whatever.
electing a sheriff that won't fucking
But-
prosecute criminals.
Right.
It's just
Right,
stupid.
but what if she was elected by people who are also against gay marriage
Sure,
and
well-
don't want people being able to get married if
In
they're
that
gay
county.
in that county?
Well, that's
Then-
highly
then what do
possible.
you know what I mean? What
It's
do you
highly
do about that?
possible.
Plus,
Well, you're still not obeying the law of the
Right.
land.
No, I understand.
So if you're breaking a federal law,
right,
then fuck it. Then you're going to jail. That's what would happen to any of us.
right.
well, and that, like, I mean, how would we feel if it was a county, if it was a sheriff, let's say, and he was, let's say, Hunter S. Thompson had won the race for sheriff in Aspen, or was it mayor? But anyway, let's
And
say
he
it was
refuses
sheriff.
to prosecute drug crimes.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Now, wouldn't we be like, wow, he's doing a good thing? Like, yes, he's breaking the law, we get it, but we like
Is
we
drug-
like the stance he's
Is all
taking.
drug crime a good thing, man?
What do you mean?
I mean, there's a lot of drug-related crimes that aren't good things.
No,
Like,
right?
People
yeah.
steal stuff
But-
and rob stuff to get
Exactly,
drugs.
Yeah,
yeah.
but if you're stealing stuff or robbing stuff or killing someone,
You broke a different law.
you can get arrested for that,
Right.
and not for the drugs.
Right,
Right.
right. And besides, I mean, let's for a hypothetical case, let's just say he wouldn't prosecute anyone for possession of marijuana or something light that we
Yeah,
are
probably be singing his praises.
right. We
Right.
would be. So
Because we're like-minded.
because we're like-minded, and that's why when I was writing this part down, I was thinking, all right, we're all four of us are probably going to agree on this issue that she's a bitch, but how do we get do the radical agnostic thing and sort of see it from the other side if we're all agreed on that? And I think
Well, I don't know if she's a bitch or not. I don't know what her
Yeah.
motivations
Well, if you
are.
listen to the lady
And there's
on...
lots of people that are Christian or whatever the hell they want to call it, and believe that, right or wrong, that God condemns homosexuality in the Bible, and I mean to get that changed takes a lot more than just passing some law. I'm sorry, but that's a lot of people grew up as kids believing that crap, and now to make them change their mind about it, it's a little harder than just Supreme Court says that gay people can get married.
and right, but nobody's trying to change their mind. They're just saying
Well,
this is not
no,
the law.
but
in the
you know,
US.
So her problem is she doesn't want her name on these gay marriage certificates.
So resign. You don't
No,
have the right job.
I agree, but another problem with her is her son is in the same office,
yeah,
and
he's a deputy.
and he wasn't
county clerk.
elected. He was
Yeah,
uh,
appointed.
Appointed.
I don't know if appointed or just hired by her, probably. But he's saying he's going to do the same thing.
Yep.
That he's not going to. So they're going to.
The other four deputy clerks are doing
Are
it,
gonna
and
do
now
it.
people are getting married in
Yes.
that
Right.
office while she's in jail.
And then the other big problem with us bringing this up and everyone else bringing it up is, and it's happening. She's going to get a bunch of fucking money from it. She's going to
Yes.
get a bunch of support.
GoFundMe
Yeah.
already
Bunch of
won't. They
money.
won't open a site for it.
Does
They've
it-
shut them down
Yeah.
already.
Well, that's fine, but she can open up something somewhere else. She can just open up a bank account.
That's fine. And if
Put that
hateful
crap
assholes
all-
want to throw their money to
Well,
another
but-
hateful asshole, that's your right.
But what I'm saying is, by everyone talking about it,
Right.
It's
that's
fueling.
why she's at the point that she
Yeah.
is, and that's
Yes.
going to happen.
Well, I personally
If
wouldn't
people
have.
just
I
were
wouldn't
like-
have brought her ass up. I wouldn't have. I've barely. The only
Well,
post.
I'm
The
not
only
really
thing
talking
about
about
her
her.
I've ever even commented on was the one where they were talking about she hates gay people so much she can't find someone to do her hair,
Right.
which I thought was pretty fun. Was it you who posted
Yeah.
that? I thought that was pretty funny, man.
Yeah.
Because she really needs help in that department pretty bad. Like, you're fucking fashion challenged, lady. You're wearing a fucking burlap sack and a really ugly wig.
And she's been married 4 times.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and her twins are from her third husband, who she was
but I
fucking
mean-
while she was married to her
Second.
Right.
to her second husband. So
Yeah.
you must be just like in the hall of Christians up there in heaven.
yeah.
Your picture's not at the fucking head of the hall, lady.
Well, I mean, those are capital offenses in the Old Testament. Divorce and adultery are punishable by stoning and death.
Yeah. So if you're really a true Christian, man, find a wall at the prison, put yourself in front of it, and pile rocks in front of your fucking your co-inmates,
Yeah.
and they'll take care of it for you. They'll give you a good Christian death.
Now,
Hallelujah.
I posted something about this too. What Mark just said. She's now a martyr, you know, and she'll
Yes.
probably be rich. She'll probably be a
Yes,
rich
she
woman.
will be.
Book deals, the conservative lecture circuit, and donations. So GoFundMe won't do it. If you're a convicted criminal, they won't let people donate to you now.
Or
That's
if
their new policy.
or if they feel like it's an act of like you're being funded because you committed an act of discrimination, or
Right.
like
But other ones, probably, I don't know, Kickstarter or whatever, she'll find some way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hard to transfer money via PayPal.
no. And there's
Um,
plenty of hateful people with lots of money.
And, you know, that's the frustrating thing for me is that I know that when she's sitting in that jail right now, she feels 100% confident that she's doing the right thing and that she's a martyr. She feels very good right now. 'Cause-
Don't you find that common with people who are pretty ignorant, though? They're always fucking so sure they're doing the right thing.
And
Like,
just because...
only the wise are full of doubt, bro.
just just because of the people that she's going to surround herself with now and who will be writing her letters, she'll feel like she's like upholding what America really wants. I mean, she's going to feel like
Oh, yeah.
millions and tens of
Yep.
millions
Mother
of people.
Mary born again.
Yeah.
We're blessed to have you.
And that just
We'll
really
find you in pieces of toast in 100 years. Like,
that really gets my goat, you know? Don't you, because you want the people you're against to know that they're the bad guys, but that's not how life works, and they're not. Values are kind of relative. So to her, she's the good guy. She's a great person. She's in jail. She's Martin Luther King, you know?
maybe Trump will divorce his immigrant wife and marry her, a good Christian American.
Yeah.
That'd be good for your campaign, bro.
But I mean, I think that's part of the problem with the world today and just everything is, I mean, people do want other people that they don't agree with to think that they're the bad person.
Right. I know.
I'm
It's
sorry,
petty.
and a lot of it, there is no good or bad.
I know.
It's just black and it's not even black and white. It's just shades of gray. People have opinions about whatever, and and a lot of it doesn't even unless you're gay, this lady doesn't matter to you at all. Like, she's not going to affect your life at all. And I mean, that might sound, not caring,
Yeah.
indifferent,
Yeah.
whatever. But
No, you're right.
It's the truth. I mean, and I understand supporting your gay friends and whatever, and thinking that they should have the same rights.
Well, on a cosmic scale, though, you don't think that does affect you? Like people getting denied basic human rights that I have? Like, I got to marry the person that I love.
First off, I don't think marriage is a fucking right. I think marriage is a bullshit fucking institution that it doesn't mean anything. And you go in front of the government to get a little piece of paper that you can fucking throw away the next morning if you want to, and people do all the time.
But
it doesn't mean shit.
But
So,
it
what
does
are
mean
people
certain
fighting
things.
over
Like
stuff?
it does mean certain things because if I'm
because
not
the government's put that.
No,
Okay,
no,
but-
it has symbolic meaning for the people that get married a lot of
For the
times.
people that
I don't
get-
believe in symbols or symbols.
well, no, you don't,
symbolism.
but
So-
other people do.
But yeah.
And they always have throughout time.
What do you
so
mean?
again, there's your shade of gray right there. Like,
Yeah,
it
Mark,
doesn't-
I mean-
you say it
Well,
doesn't matter, but it does to somebody else.
But I'm
So-
not trying to make people who believe in that stuff feel bad.
No,
Like, you
neither
can
am
believe in
I.
that stuff. I disagree with you, but I'm not going to say,
Well, wait a minute.
oh, well, you should think that you're an idiot because you don't believe what I do.
But there are things that
But why are you-
if you're not married, like if my wife gets
No,
in a
I-
car
no, I
wreck, I
understand
can't
all that.
fucking go see her or find
Yeah.
out anything
I
about her at the
understand all
hospital.
that, but that's because of laws that the government has.
Right.
So if the government did not exist, it didn't have those laws about marriage and didn't have that shit, then that wouldn't be a fucking factor.
Right. If the
at
government
all.
didn't exist, we wouldn't have a lot of the things
Yeah.
we have, like infrastructure and all that. So
Oh, yeah, the infrastructure that what's keeping the streets together. So, like, you build
Well,
bridges don't collapse on the
they're-
way to
they're-
L.A. from Phoenix.
So you're continuing
yeah,
that
wouldn't be it.
infrastructure.
There wouldn't
without
be
it,
any
there wouldn't be
bridges,
any
Mark.
bridges. You'd
No,
just
there'd be a
fucking-
bridge that somebody else fucking built.
No, which wouldn't
For
hold up.
somebody that needs to get across that.
They would just
You don't
forward
think
and
people
keep
would build
going because they don't
themselves?
care about the
No.
next guy.
So you think
No.
when the pioneers were coming out west, They didn't create fucking trails and roads.
Those were
that the government set everything up on the way out here.
There were
nobody traveled.
Well,
out
the
here
military
before the
did most of
government
it. If
set
you look
stuff
at
up.
Old West history,
Yeah.
most of what got built out here was Army Corps of Engineers. So yeah,
railroad
government, man.
lines. And
Railroads,
this
mines,
was U.S.
government.
territory too, so they
They came
did
out
have
and
a
set up all that
presence.
shit for the civvies because the Indians were fucking scalping them when they came out here by themselves. So yeah, the government did a lot of this stuff out here. We're responsible for expansion. They couldn't have fucking fought the Sioux on their own. The
I didn't
colonists.
say they could fight them, but settlers
Well,
were
the
definitely-
Sioux certainly
settlers
weren't going to
were
let you
definitely
build a
coming out
fucking
here.
bridge over their river. I can
Plus-
tell you that. That bridge wasn't going to last a
Plus-
fucking week because
plus,
it was
Mark-
a way for more white people to get here, so they
Plus,
weren't having
if
it.
a guy built the bridge so that he could get across, he owns that bridge.
He's going to charge you.
or not let you cross it at all. So we can't get into the anarchism versus
True.
government debate now.
No, well, that's an idiot comment right there because to say that if a guy
good to
builds
have
a
you back.
bridge, then he owns that bridge. Only if he says that. Only if he's like, if
Why wouldn't he?
Because he's an anarchist.
Oh.
If anarchy existed, was a fucking thing, and everybody was into it, then nobody would build a bridge and go, "This is mine now. You got to give me money to cross it."
There would be no such thing as personal property
Right.
if anarchy existed.
Right.
That's,
That's
a
probably
stupid
why it
comment.
doesn't exist. Then
That's a
that's a
stupid
good. That's a
comment.
good. There's a good line of thinking on why it doesn't exist. Then because
All right.
nobody would have
No,
anything.
no, it wouldn't exist. It would never exist. It exists in theory on paper, just like everything else.
But even those people who wanted to be left alone out west still wanted
People
the
would-
government to come help them when the Indians burned their shit down.
We should do this as a formal debate sometime, a formal topic, because I'm very interested in anarchism versus the state, and I have a lot to say on it, but I'm not prepared. So, but on this Kim Davis thing, I don't know. So this, Mark, I mean, you were saying the social media aspect of it. A lot of people are saying, why are we paying attention to this? Or like some Kim Kardashian thing, like it becomes huge news.
Well, you're paying attention to it because that's what you want. That's what people, or not people, the government or people in media or whatever, it's what they want you to pay attention to.
Well, don't you
pay
think...
attention to what they shove down your throat, what they expose you to, what they get other people to comment on and talk about, and and it's
So there's two schools of thought here. One, the media gives you what they want you to watch, and then we just watch it because that's all we have. We don't have a choice. The other school of thought is that the media responds to demand of the people.
Well, and I would say that there's both those things because the media gives you what they want you to be paying attention to, but there's other stories out there that you can try to pay attention to.
If you
but
click on-
usually the majority of people click on the sexy thing,
Right.
Click on the thing that doesn't take much thought. Click on the thing that it's not really gonna make you go and question your own beliefs possibly. Yeah, I mean, it's no coincidence that like Jenner's fucking sex change thing and all the other things that have happened this year and last year that were like hot topics, all happened around the time that other shit happened. The passing of the new Patriot Act or whatever the hell it's called,
USA Freedom Act.
Yeah, USA Freedom Act. All the other stuff, they all happened around the same time. As like that was like for the week that was the hot issue. There's this other thing going on with our government.
Sure, wag the
and
dog.
other things.
So
yeah.
what's the issue this week, that's being covered up?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, because it's covered up.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's someone's talking about it. I'm sure you can go and
Is it the migrant
investigate
crisis?
it.
Because I did see a post. It was like Christian Moms or something Facebook page, and it was saying, "I don't give a crap about Kim Davis. She's not my hero. We have real things to worry about right now. There's 10,000
Right.
migrants fleeing Syria and dying in the ocean. So that's what's really important."
Oh, well, I think that things like with Kim Davis, she anything that makes people's passions come up and they just want to jump on that, then the media's feeding into that, and that's the easy thing to go for just because that's what their passions.
Yeah. But it is an important issue to some people, like Brian was saying, that the marriage is important to a lot of people.
But it shouldn't really be an issue because, like you guys all said, she got a job that is a government job. She's to uphold the law of the Constitution and the government. She put her hand on the Constitution and or on a Bible and swore to uphold the Constitution laws.
Yeah.
She didn't put her hand on a Constitution and swear to uphold the Bible's
Right.
laws. So, I mean, it's pretty,
That's
cut and
pretty
dry.
black
cut and
white,
dry,
yeah.
black and white, that she's not doing her job. So I don't know if she should be thrown in jail, but she should be dismissed from her job.
So
Get someone else there. Now, it's completely different then, I think, than like the gay cake thing or the gay pizza thing or any of that stuff, because those aren't government
Those are private
jobs.
businesses.
And they did not. There wasn't a law saying you have to provide gay people with pizza.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree with you there. Like if somebody doesn't want to make a cake for me because I'm tattooed or because me and my wife do oral, whatever it might be, I don't give a fuck. I'll go get somebody else to make it. Because in the end, I don't want you to make my fucking cake.
Right.
I don't give a shit. Yeah, and I'm afraid of what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to make a big deal of it. I'll just go tell all my friends, hey, these guys are assholes.
Basically,
like don't go use
Basically,
it.
I don't want any animosity in the recipe for my cake.
Thank you.
Like, I don't want that in my cake
Yeah.
transaction.
And it's not a big enough deal to me, and it wouldn't be. But maybe that's because I don't feel particularly oppressed, other than as a poor voting American that's not getting good government. I don't feel particularly oppressed outside of that.
Right.
So,
well, and there's also another case right now that I guess there's a guy who's Muslim that is a truck driver. And he basically doesn't want to do any alcohol shipments. He doesn't want to have to carry any beer.
Fucking blade
anywhere.
cuts both ways, folks.
Yeah.
So
No, right. But the funny thing is, so if he tells his company that, and then what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to just like put him on different shifts?
Well, I'm gonna probably say something weird right now, but that seems far more reasonable to me because there's plenty of other things they could stick in the back of his truck.
Well, maybe.
and have him
maybe
do.
not.
Well, maybe.
But
But,
I mean,
but
well, if you
maybe-
work for Anheuser-Busch or Khalil
Right.
Distributing, okay, maybe
Yeah.
maybe you should go get a job for a newspaper driving pulp or something,
Right. Yeah.
or a logging
but
company.
maybe the company he works for says, you know what, that doesn't work for us.
Right.
We're going to let you go.
Get a new job. Yep.
Then, but
Yeah.
then, if he sues them for discrimination, saying that it was because of his religion that he was let go,
right.
guess who's going to uphold that and fight for him?
Right.
The government. The government is going to fight for him
Or some
and
ACLU
say yes,
lawyer.
he was
Yeah.
discriminated
Yeah.
against, and
Right.
you know.
Or an atheist might say, I don't
Oh,
want to
yeah.
deliver Bibles or whatever, too.
Right.
I mean, that could happen. But I think I fall with you guys on this, that there shouldn't be legislation necessarily against private businesses. On the other hand, though, what about straight up segregation? No blacks allowed in this restaurant. Should
Well,
that be legal?
I think it's the same thing that you guys were talking about. If someone doesn't want you in their restaurant, no matter what the reason is, you don't go to that restaurant.
Right.
You're like, fuck you then. I'm not coming here. Like,
Yeah,
and so
pretty-
if somebody
I mean,
wants
you
to put up
have-
a sign saying no blacks or no tattooed people,
They're not
or
gonna
no
last.
whatever,
Yeah,
or
you're not
whatever,
gonna
then,
last.
yeah, okay,
Anyway,
fine, fuck
your
you.
business is
Don't
fucking
go.
doomed.
And then probably the majority of people are gonna be like, wow, those guys are kind of extreme, and we're not gonna go there either.
Well, I think even other hateful people won't go there because you're gonna have to take off your little hood, man. Now you
Yeah.
got to step out into the light to go to the place that hates black people, and
Right.
they're gonna know that you're like-minded.
And social media and community action now could easily
Ruin
take
you.
those businesses
Yeah, they'll
down
ruin you.
just
Easily.
through
Yeah.
publicity.
Get ruined.
These are the places in Mississippi where blacks aren't allowed to go. Don't go there,
Because what you're going to do too is cut yourself off to a lot of other people because that's not just going to make black people angry. I got black friends.
Yeah.
But
And
now,
if I come up to your restaurant with Keith and you tell me I can't come in because I'm with him, bro,
so we're talking here
out.
about rolling back the provisions of the Civil Rights Act. Is that? I mean, Mark has no problem with extreme things like that. But what about the rest
I
of?
don't.
well, I'm not saying we should
all I'm
roll it back,
talking
but I'm
about-
saying it's the road to doom if you do it. Even if it wasn't here in this age,
Yeah.
right now with social media, it's the road to doom.
I'm
I mean,
just
you're
talking
gonna
about
get
private
your-
business. That's all. I'm not talking about voting.
But
I'm
that's-
not talking about any other
I
thing.
think those things are part of the Civil Rights Act. It's illegal to discriminate as a private business based on sex, color, religion.
Race or creed.
I think
yeah.
that it's illegal. Yeah, it's illegal to segregate, to say no blacks allowed. That's against
Well,
the law.
like I said, I don't. If it's a government body, I think it should be illegal to do
Right,
that.
yeah.
If it's a private business,
But
No.
you can't tell me there's not people out there who that's the policy. It might not be in the book. You're not going to find it in the P&P manual. But
You
they
mean
ain't going to
there's-
be hiring
Yeah.
Right,
anybody
right.
they don't want to hire.
Oh,
or
yeah.
even-
I mean,
Well,
you
that's
just look
anywhere,
you just
yeah.
look at Fox News and see
or
that.
giving
Yeah,
loans.
yeah.
That's like the Aryan fucking race, blonde, blue-eyed, man. Do they?
all
like-
those blonde, hot,
Yeah.
blonde female anchors.
Yeah, that collectively know like jack shit.
Did you see the clip? Rogan always plays it where they're doing like a little talk, and I mean, the dresses that these women are in are unbelievable. And at one point, the girl hikes it up. So she's talking on one of those couches, like Morning Joe or one of those shows on Fox News, and she hikes the skirt up at one point. Like, she thought the camera wasn't on her, and it was already, 12 inches above her knees, and then she pulled it up further. There's a little earbud, like someone in her earbud. Like,
need
Roger
that skirt a little higher, Audrey.
We're gonna need you to show a little bit more labia.
Yeah. We can't see your uterus. Please pull your skirt up a little higher.
Yeah. So
show a little more labia. Good God.
Sweet Jesus. But a lot of people, we mentioned that Kim Davis has been divorced, right? And that she probably was an adulterer or whatever. And so the big thing is you're a hypocrite, because the ban on homosexuality is an Old Testament rule, but so are all these other Old Testament rules. So I looked it up, and I was like, come on, what's the best explanation for this hypocrisy? Because there must be some kind of workaround for explaining that. That pastors in conservative churches must explain to their congregations why it's okay to hate gay people, but not those who have been divorced. And there is it's pretty squirrely, though, as you might imagine. There's
you can see my face, right? Yeah, okay.
There's a concept of natural law, okay, and this is explored in philosophy a lot and legal studies. But what it is just basically that some of the rules in the Old Testament are based on natural law, and so they're obviously wrong without even having to be stated. So, there's different covenants that God has had with the Jewish people and then with Christians when Jesus came around, and the rules change in the Old Testament. So there's the time in Genesis when man was first created, and you couldn't. They said that everyone was a vegetarian, and it says that in the Bible. No one ate meat, and then there was the covenant when Noah, after the flood and Noah and everything. There was a new covenant, and it said you can't eat unclean meat or beasts with a cloven hoof, and that's what kosher is. And then then Moses came around, and the rules got much stricter, and then there was another covenant, and then there was Jesus, that's the New Testament, and then there's a covenant in heaven, and they give you rules about what you can do in heaven. When you go to heaven, there's no meat eating again. Everyone's a vegetarian because there's no death anymore, by the way, if you guys were wondering what that's going to be like. They put...
but in the Garden of Eden, there might not have been any meat eating, but it doesn't exactly say that in the Bible. It says that they can eat whatever they want in the garden, which animals are in the garden. And they do kill animals for sacrifices to God. That's the story of Cain and Abel.
Yeah, after the fall, though. So there's the before the fall, and then there's after the fall. The fall being Eve eating the apple. So after that, things started dying.
But what I'm saying is, even before the fall,
so it's been women's fault forever.
It didn't say.
It's always been that way.
It didn't say that it said people could say that Adam and Eve could eat of anything in the garden, which animals were in the garden. Now it didn't talk about them eating the animals, but it also didn't talk about them not being allowed to eat the animals.
But it might have said there's no death. Nothing died.
Then you're going to have a philosophical discussion about, does that include animals? Because animals don't have souls, according to most Christians.
And what about plants? Like, how do they reseed the earth? Like, if they don't die, do they not die?
No plants.
Do plants
die.
Just keep growing? It
That's
overgrown. That garden.
That's my problem with vegetarians. Usually, is they want to believe that what they do is not part of the death cycle. They know that what they eat isn't dead. It's not alive. It doesn't bleed. It doesn't scream. It doesn't. And now we're finding out with all these scientific research that no, it does do those things.
Yeah.
Plants do scream when you rip their
They don't scream.
Off. Yes, they do. They scream out to the other plants. You can't hear it, but it does do it.
I just laughing. I read this a long time ago, though, about plants being able to recognize, like, I read a study where they hooked them up to polygraphs or some kind of measuring machine, and a guy came in and ripped one apart, and the next time that dude came in the room, all those fucking machines went crazy. Like, the plants knew he was back.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an energy thing.
Yeah.
They think.
I think they react to being pulled apart, but as far as feeling pain, there's no central nervous system.
Well, but you don't know what they feel.
Fucking John
Again,
Berger,
it's
plant
like
discriminator.
It's like it's like you being blind and trying to tell me what an elephant looks like.
Right.
Or what the color blue is.
Well, it's also me working off of what
you're
we
trying
know, we know about what pain is. There's scientific definitions.
What we know
of
about
these.
what human pain is.
Right, and we have to work from something. We can't just say, "Well, we're not sure, so we can't have any opinion ever."
But that doesn't mean that it's correct across everything,
Right.
the whole spectrum. Is that correct? Then about animals too? Do animals feel the pain exactly as we do?
Well,
do plants?
but here's the thing:
if plants don't feel the pain exactly as we do, does that mean they're not in pain?
But if people,
an android, if we make an android or a cyborg,
but if you don't eat plants or animals, you die. And so vegetarians, if not eating meat made you die, there wouldn't be any vegetarians. There'd be like 2 guys that ever did it. So it's the whole point is we do our best without dying because of it. So if I don't eat meat, it's because I can get by just fine without it. And my cats can't. The cats need
but
meat
you know
to
when
survive.
you're eating vegetables, you're also killing animals, right? You know, farmers kill animals to grow those crops.
I know.
Okay.
And I eat dairy, so that those animals are treated horribly.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying. But Mark,
people take whatever they want, their worldview, and they place it into this microcosm that they can deal with, and they go, okay, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with killing things, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with that, and that's fine. Everyone lives their life, right? I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is when people
orphans in the face,
take that fucking microcosm of theirs and put it off on everybody else and say, now if you don't live like I do, you are a horrible human being.
Right, and very few people or vegetarians do that.
There's a lot.
And
there's a lot.
You seem to be saying that all vegetarians are hypocrites. So you're not just saying don't push it on me. You're actually attacking their lifestyle.
I'm saying that everyone on this planet is a fucking hypocrite.
Right.
So that includes vegetarians.
That's pretty much the
vegans,
theme I get.
That includes
from
carnivores,
beef. Everybody's
omnivores.
a hypocrite. But do you include yourself in that?
Of course.
Are you a hypocrite?
Of course.
Beef, I like your
because
style,
you don't
man.
punch
More and more every Sunday.
You don't punch orphans because it hurts.
I might punch an orphan if they fucking do something that I don't like.
Like, fuck an orphan.
They try to push their vegetarian bullshit on me.
So you must really hate the vegans then.
No.
They're even...
And CrossFitters.
I know.
Are you threatening
I've
me
lived
with a
bunch
Brussels
of them.
sprout?
So...
Their farts are terrible.
Oh, man.
Well, so and also there actually are references to homosexuality in the New Testament. So it's not Jesus talking about it, but it's the Apostle Paul saying things about, like in Corinthians, he says, "Do you not know that the wicked will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers," oh well, there's adultery, "nor male prostitutes." Only male, nor homosexual offenders, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards,
So
nor
wait, women got to
slanderers.
pass on prostitution
Yeah,
in the
apparently.
fucking Bible? That's bullshit, man. A built-in exemption?
Yeah, he was like male prostitutes. He's like the women
Female
are okay.
privilege. I'm calling it right there. Boom. In the Bible, female privilege.
Also, slavery was allowed too. And
Yeah.
that was even in the New Testament.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
What a morally wholesome book.
Well, and that's the whole thing is that Britain and Europe and the U.S. were the first nations in the history of the world to outlaw slavery ever. So it's kind of a feather in the cap of Western society and liberalism that this is the banning of slavery is unprecedented in world history. So Greece, ancient Greece, Rome, slavery.
Oh, yeah, the Spartans had slaves.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's not just
homosexuality,
that
too.
the Bible. It's not like Paul, and it is Paul who talks about it. It's not like Paul is saying, "Oh, yeah, slavery is good," but he does say that if you are a slave, you're supposed to be respectful and loyal to your master and do
Right.
what he says, even if you are a Christian. Like, yeah, you're and
And render
Doesn't
unto
it say
Caesar
something
what
in the
is
Bible
Caesar's.
about being loyal to the law of your land?
That's what I was just saying. Render unto Caesar what is
Yeah.
Caesar's.
So where's
Pay
Kim?
taxes.
Where's old Kim's head on that one?
Yeah.
They can't wrap it around there.
Yeah.
So I'm shocked that someone's picking what they want out of the Bible and throwing out what doesn't work for them. It's shocking to me.
Yeah.
I'm appalled.
Shocking.
Yeah, because I was saying.
it must be unprecedented.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
my point here was that the thing against homosexuality is in the New Testament, so it's okay for these Christians to be against that and not the divorce thing. But in that same passage, as I just said, there was adulterers and idolaters are in there, so adultery should be then on the same level for her as
but not all
homosexuality.
divorced people are adulterers.
No, but she
She
was
was.
the adult.
Yeah.
So
She was making twins with her future husband.
right now,
But
this,
I don't see. So how does that work? So she was doing.
Yeah.
The father of her twins is her fourth husband.
Third.
Is her third husband.
Oh, I thought it was her fourth.
No, it was the third.
The fourth is the one she's married to.
No,
now.
right now,
Yeah.
right.
But I think it was something like she was married to the first, humping the third, married the second.
Yeah.
He adopted the twins. Then she divorced him, married the third, divorced him, married the fourth. It's like a marriage gangbang.
Yes.
yeah, this woman is just.
And
She must be a nightmare at home.
well, and what I was talking about earlier when I said
Well,
she
she's
had
a
been-
nightmare at work.
yeah.
Well, but I mean, she's desirable to someone to get married 4 times.
It's
you know
Kentucky,
what I mean?
bro. I'm just putting that out there.
Oh my god.
Sorry to my friends Don and Vince. Vince, I know you're from Kentucky, but I was there for a while. I do
All
have
right.
some experience with the area.
That was a good investigation of things. So moving
And it
on.
was a good welcome back for Mark
Yeah.
too. I was like made me
He was
really
saving
glad
it
to
up.
have him here. He was. He saved a week.
I guess in Catholicism, if you confess during confession to having had an abortion, you're automatically excommunicated from the church. I hadn't realized that.
What? Really?
Yeah,
You can confess a
In
murder and come
confession?
back, but
Wow.
I thought.
Yeah, you can confess a murder, and the priest can't even
No.
use
Turn
that
you
confession
in,
to
yeah.
turn you in. But
Well, what it says here was an article about Pope Francis, and what Catholics also do is every 25 years they have a Jubilee year, which is pretty cool. It was every 7 years, and
there's a Jubilee.
for the
I wanted
Israelites,
to go there.
for the Israelites, it was every 7 years, and all debts would be forgiven on that 7th year for everyone. And
Right.
that's actually an idea that a lot of left-leaning
Suddenly,
people,
I'm for this Christian government.
yeah. And so the Catholics do that every 25 years. Of course, they don't forgive debts, but they forgive sins, So what the article said was, quote, earlier this week, the Pope announced other gestures for the upcoming year of mercy, the Jubilee year, including a temporary concession that will make it easier for priests to lift the excommunications of women who ask for forgiveness for having had abortions. So that implied to me that women who've had abortions are excommunicated. But anyway, he's calling for priests to forgive that sin and let them back in the church and everything. So
I wonder if that goes for guys who have either paid for abortions
yeah,
or
exactly.
forced a girl to get an abortion.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, anyway, I guess
So I'm excommunicated. I'm heartbroken.
Me too.
I'm just
you guys
heartbroken.
don't. You seem really sad.
You look strung out about it, Chris.
Yeah.
I got to say,
Um,
to not be able to stand up and be counted with those good folks like Kim Davis, I'm fucking bummed, man.
I'm really sad.
so I saw a clip
Ruined my Sunday.
on Fox News. It was O'Reilly's show, and he was interviewing these professors of law and criminal justice, and he was talking about the epidemic of police being murdered in the U.S. And what did we learn? A little bit of statistics.
I just read a study on this where it's in the. I think it started with Reagan, and the number was something like
It
586.
was the last 4 two-term presidents.
Yeah, it was like 586 police officers were killed during his 8 years, and Obama's in the low 300s.
Yeah, and it was actually up to their 7th year.
But it's only like
so
half
it would
the
be
year.
fair.
Well, I mean, we're talking what
No.
now?
There's still 7 months left in Obama's administration.
No, more
Yeah,
than that.
they're not
A year
gonna-
over more than a year.
Yeah, but it's not going to go to
Okay.
580.
No, but
They could.
No,
Well, I mean,
Mark,
if everyone's
wait,
going nuts.
Wait.
Unless Fox News puts a stop to it.
I can already explain this. those numbers for each of those presidents, the numbers
Are through
were
7
up to
years?
the seventh year,
Oh.
up to this exact time in Obama's administration.
Okay.
So it was fairly
Right.
reported.
So 7 years for all of them.
Exactly.
So, and it's been declining, and it's not just Obama, and it's not just Democrats or Republicans. It's every president since Reagan, whatever way it's gone.
Right.
Clinton, Bush Sr., whatever, it was all
Down.
down. So there were more murdered during Clinton's term than there were during Bush Jr.'s term. There were more than there have been during Obama's
So
term.
O'Reilly asked this professor, he goes, is Black Lives, was his question, was Black Lives Matter contributing to violence, to this epidemic of violence against police? And both of the professors that he had there said, well, the one guy goes, well, I don't know what you mean by an epidemic. He said there were fewer police deaths this year than last year. And he didn't mention what you said, which is even stronger evidence. But he was like, I don't know what you mean by an epidemic. There's fewer this year. And there was no such thing as Black Lives Matter last year. So O'Reilly goes, yeah, well, okay, maybe a few less. And he goes, well, 18%. He goes,
I mean, if you're one of the guys who got the flag on the coffin, that 18% don't mean
Exactly.
much. If you're his family. But if you're looking at overall statistics of a whole country, 18% is a big fucking deal.
Yes.
Like if your investment climbed 18% over last year, you'd be super happy.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's
Well,
that's a good thing that it's down.
It's just false for him to call it an epidemic. You can't call it an epidemic when it's reducing drastically.
I think it's an epidemic in the fact that they're talking about the last couple cops that have been killed. That
the circumstances.
the circumstances. They were killed. They were in their uniform and on duty and stuff, but they weren't like chasing a
ambush.
bad guy.
They got ambushed.
One guy was just pumping gas,
Right?
Yeah,
and
got
he came up
ambushed.
from behind him and shot him in the back of the head.
But
So the fact that people are like so pissed at cops that they're doing that kind of stuff now, that is possibly an epidemic. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't really. I don't know. Maybe it has happened in the past.
But you
it's
sure
not.
didn't hear about it as much.
Right, you didn't
Right.
hear about it.
That's
well, O'Reilly
that's
was
for
trying
sure.
to connect it to
Well, and that's what-
the rhetoric of Black Lives Matter,
right?
Which
Because they, which I don't even understand. Is Black Lives Matter an actual movement or is it a hashtag?
well, it's a movement. For
I
sure.
mean, can I write to some address or call some
I-
phone
Well, it's
looked
not
number?
an
at it
official
and get to-
organization, but it is a movement. I mean,
Yeah,
there's thousands of people
But
demonstrate
it's a
under
movement
that banner.
like "We shall overcome," right? It's a catchphrase,
Right, yeah.
It's something that people say.
Yeah.
It's not.
But there's no
it's not
leadership.
like the Tea Party.
No,
Yeah.
there's
It's not
no
like
leadership.
Occupy. The Occupy movement. It's not like
Those don't have official structures either.
didn't they?
The Tea Party maybe, but not Occupy.
No.
Not official. There's no president of Occupy or one guy that you go to.
I thought there were like
Yeah, and that's
because I know there was. I know that locally in Tucson there was people that did have meetings for
Tucson.
Occupy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had Occupy Tucson. They say, "Hey, we're all going to meet up at blah blah blah."
Yeah, but anyone
And,
can go, and there's no. You don't have to
But I
sign
mean,
up. Your name's not on
But
the list.
is that does Black Lives Matter do that?
Yeah.
Do they
have
do like,
meetings.
"Hey, we're going to have a Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter meeting"?
well. So then, who's organizing that? Then there have to be organizers and leaders
Yeah.
if that's happening.
Yeah, there are groups and stuff, but there's no way to tell the difference between someone who's a Black Lives Matter activist, sympathizer. There's no clear lines there. Like when those two girls interrupted Bernie Sanders, at first, some Black Lives Matter people, it's a good question. I don't know what that means, but they were like, hey, they're not in the group. They're not part of it. But then
they'll say there's no group. It's
Right.
just a
Yeah.
hashtag.
Yeah.
Okay, so which fucking is it?
Yeah.
Then? What's going on?
I think it's anyone who uses the phrase
Black
in an
Lives
activist.
Matter.
Well, then how the fuck can you say they're not part of it? If it's just a hashtag,
Yeah.
I'm part of it. I'll throw it on anything I want.
Right. Yeah.
You can just throw it like have a McDonald's burger, Black Lives Matter. Like if it's just a hashtag, then it's fucking meaningless if there's nothing behind it. And I don't think that there's nothing behind it. I think there's a lot behind it. There's a lot of feeling behind it. There's a lot of fucking anger behind it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of legitimate anger and feeling behind it.
Yeah. Well, so we were talking about this. A lot of liberals and Bernie Sanders supporters were angry at those young women for coming up and interrupting his speech. If you don't know what I'm talking about,
The one in Seattle, right?
yeah, I think it was.
It was the one before. It was one before the big one,
right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a Bernie Sanders event. Actually, it was just an event for liberal people, and he was scheduled to
there.
speak there,
Right.
and they got up and interrupted his time. And he just walked away and let them have their 4 minutes of silence for a black person who was killed, and then he tried to step back up, and they were still screaming and stuff. So, but a lot of liberals were mad at those girls, and saying, well, Bernie's the most likely candidate to help your cause, so why are you interrupting his event? And I like their response, or an article I read, and it was just the point is disturbing the peace. It's disturbing things and structures, and a lot of people in this movement are sick of this idea that just vote for the Democrat. Eventually they'll bring up you black people issues and stuff, and they're saying no, that it's not working.
Whatever your cause is, that's flawed thinking at its foundation.
It is trusting a political party to represent your interests. So they were saying, no, the point we're blocking highways and interrupting speeches because that's how you do activism. You make trouble. You break the law, and it's civil disobedience. So I get where they're coming from with that, and then it puts people like me in a weird position, because it's like, well, am I advocating for these people, or am I just silently nodding and saying okay to them, or am I helping them in some way?
And hoping you're not on your way to the emergency room on a highway that they blocked?
Right. And, but if I feel I already came up with a little retort in case a Black Lives Matter person told me that I was part of the problem for not being an activist for them, not getting out on the street. And I would say, well, have you done any activist stuff for Native Americans or Asian Americans or trans people? Have you done marches for them? And I'm sure you'd have to get to some group, they would have to say no. And I would say, well, so are you part of the problem for Native Americans because you're not being an activist for them?
Well, I don't know this officially or anything, but I think the majority of Black Lives Matter people don't want white people coming and joining the group and standing up and doing whatever, because they feel like when white people do that they're the ones who get the attention. The white people are always trying to talk about racism and speak for them, and they want to speak for themselves,
right?
And address these issues themselves. So to me, it seems like a lot of the people in the Black Lives Matter, it's like the Black Panthers, where they can, if you want to be down with them and support them, that's cool. And then, if you want to send them money maybe, or I don't know, whatever, but they're not really actively looking for white people to come and join their ranks and march with them and, and scream and yell at whoever.
Right. I mean, that works for me because I'm lazy.
I'm not much of a marcher.
Yeah. So, Brian, you were talking about the EPA spilled a bunch of horrible crap into this river.
Into the Animas River.
Where's that?
It's the Animas runs down
Colorado,
from the headwaters are in the Colorado, New Mexico, goes over a lot of the Navajo Nation. They've been really affected by it.
And you were saying the
FEMA denied them aid. They said the EPA's already helping them. The Navajo Nation's president asked for aid, and they said, no, the EPA's already helping you. What the EPA's doing for the Navajos, just so you know, is filling 2 water tanks for them. They're going to do that through the end of September. I'm doubting that fucking toxic orange water spill will be cleaned up by the end of November. But it's not like our government's ever cared about what happens to the Native Americans. Well, so it's funny that we come to this off of a topic that's basically about racism and
systematic oppression of a group.
Systemic racism. There's no one, and I don't care what your fucking hashtag is, there's no one living in these borders that has suffered more systemic racism than the Native American, that still suffers as much systemic racism, because when we need something from them, they're Americans, and when we don't, they're a sovereign nation. You're on your fucking own, fellas.
Right.
And it's been a constant thing since Whitey got off the boat here, or the dominant culture, Christians, whatever you want to fucking call it.
Right.
Since we got off the boat here, Indo-Europeans, that's been the stick that they've gotten handed. And they're still getting handed it. And what just bothers me, and again, I'll call out to my liberal friends, because Bush was a racist when FEMA didn't get to, and I'm pretty sure Bush isn't in charge of FEMA specifically, or he wasn't, but he was a racist when they didn't get to
Katrina.
Didn't even stupid ass Kanye get up and George Bush hates black people. Where's all that Where's all that venom for Obama with the EPA and FEMA and the Native Americans?
Got to get a popular Native American rapper.
Is
Where are
he
they?
is he a racist?
Well,
because he won't step in?
And O'Reilly made that idiotic, and these professors didn't respond correctly. He's made that stupid thing where he goes, 450 white people were killed by cops last year or whatever, and he goes, and 250 or so black people were. He goes, so what? How is this an epidemic of violence on black people? Dude, it's percentages. If you look at the proportion, black people make up 12% of the country. White people make up like 58%. Those proportions of the numbers should mirror that. It's completely, it's 4 times or what it should be.
Well, and if you look up how many Native Americans were killed by police,
exactly, it's worse.
It's worse. It's the worst in the country.
Native Americans make up 1.8% of the population, and their rate of killing is much higher than that.
Than anyone.
But see, it goes to whatever you want to look at, because really the highest percentage of people killed by cops is people with mental problems, people with mental health issues across all the races. The majority of the people killed have mental health issues
or substance abuse.
Or substance abuse, and cops don't know how to deal with it.
You see the latest video of that guy getting dropped in? They just dropped him.
The guy with his hands up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
this brings up just to something we talked about last week. 280-pound guy goes down with one fucking shot to the chest, but that little waif girl took off running after she got 3 of them?
I was thinking about, we talked about that live TV shooting last week, and Brian has some questions, some skepticism about whether it was real, the video of it.
Wow.
And now when I saw that guy get shot, I thought of you right away.
Down.
He doubled over.
And went down.
Yep.
And she just took 3 for the team and sprinted like Carl fucking Lewis in the other direction. And that guy was even closer to her than they were to him. And that's a 280-pound guy, twice her size. She didn't flinch after the first shot. Didn't flinch till, if you watch in slow motion, didn't even flinch till after the second shot. And then she only flinched and took off running. Never doubled over. Never took an impact.
But it doesn't show you how far she runs. Because it shows her.
Well, she ran a lot fucking further than that, dude.
But I'm saying
the video I saw, bro, she ran until her feet disappeared from the screen.
You don't know where she got shot.
He pointed the gun supposedly right at her midsection. The video's right there.
But just because you point a gun at someone, and
it generally hits close to where it's aimed at. My point is, bro, the big guy your size drops from one shot.
Maybe he got a shot right in the heart. Maybe he got shot right.
All right.
Wherever. I don't know.
Do you do a lot of shooting, bro? Do you study a lot of ballistics?
I don't.
Okay, right. I've looked at a lot of this stuff.
They're not putting those reports on the TV.
They're not because they don't want you to know.
Shot. Well, right. So until I have all the information,
well,
you have plenty of information in the video if you know what you're looking for. There's plenty of it.
We went into it in depth last week. Listen to that episode.
Well, the cameraman just gets shot once and he falls down.
You don't even see that.
Yeah, you do.
You don't. Not on the video I saw. You don't see that.
On the video I saw, and there's 2 videos. There's one from the shooter he's got, and then there's another one from the cameraman.
Yeah, I never saw the shooter one cuts off after about 20 seconds. The camera falls off.
I saw the shooter one all the way through to where she turns around and runs.
Yeah, out of the picture.
And then he turns and shoots the cameraman.
Well, you can't see that. It goes
black.
Does
he shoot her again after she runs?
He's shooting at her.
And then she supposedly...
He fires 3 shots before she takes off and runs, man. Girl's size of my wife, bro.
Well, he shoots 3 times in the 2 women's direction. The one woman got hit and didn't die, but she did get hit. No, the reporter died.
Yeah.
The one she was interviewing got shot and was in the hospital, but did not die. The cameraman died and the reporter died.
And see, that's another...
On the video, from the shooter's perspective, he shoots towards the 2 women 3 times. Then he turns towards the cameraman, shoots him once.
That's another reason it can't be fake, because they wouldn't have left that lady alive to tell the tale afterwards, the third lady.
And then he shoots the cameraman 2 more times when he's on the ground.
Pretty weird. And in the first picture, he's wearing a blue shirt, and when the cameraman looks up at him from the ground, he's wearing a black shirt.
But if this...
So strange.
I don't know if I said this last week, but if, I'd say that it's almost certain that it was real, in my opinion. And so,
then it worked.
What will be interesting is that if it is real, if somehow that could be proven, to all of us, it shows you something interesting about how you can analyze video and stuff and say that it looks fake. Because, like, every high-profile, everything that's ever happened, there's people who say, see, like the flat Earth people, they'll give you all the footage from the satellites up there in space, and they'll say, see, it's obviously doctored. Look at this pixelation. The Earth is flat. These are fake pictures, you know. See, you can see it right here. And so there's always that ability, and sometimes reality doesn't look realistic, as we said last week too. But anyway, it would just be interesting to me that you can find things that don't seem consistent in real stuff sometimes. And I'm not saying you're definitely wrong or anything.
No, I wouldn't be amazed.
I don't know any of them
that it was fake. But
no.
But the thing that I think was funny was the outpouring of attention and detail and sympathy and whatever to the media. And it was all about oh, these two people that work in media, they died. Yeah. It's like the shooter was a media person too. The shooter worked at the same place that those two. So like
passed the background check.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to be like, oh, the poor media who were victims of this terrible violence, like we should be saying, oh, the media also was the perpetrator of this violence.
Right. Well, the media is the one that's probably contributed to so many copycat, shootings and incidents and the school shooters and stuff because the fame gives them fame. Mm-hmm. And we all know that the media is somewhat culpable, to a lesser or more degree in all these shootings and this copycat stuff. So yeah, they're very upset that one of their own. It's like when cops get killed. You
can't keep your fucking foot in the pool without getting wet.
Yeah. Mm-mm. You guys love this stuff. I mean,
yeah, you fucking eat it up. Yeah. You want to put killers' names all over the news, and so guess what? You get to put one of your own up now.
Glossy shots in magazines.
Well, and usually the videos that they get of that they show over and over and over again. It's kind of funny that
they don't want to show that one, huh? Yeah,
and
Yep.
Yeah, the guy that got shot on his front yard or whatever. I mean, I know he got called in for domestic. I'm sure he was going nuts and doing bad things.
Not when he got shot.
Yeah, the hands are up, and now they say the police are telling us that there was something, literally is the word they use, something was in his hand, his other hand. Okay. I don't know a lot of people who can shoot you with their hands straight up in the air, but even if it was a gun, which if it was, they would have told us that by now, that he had a gun in his hand. And I think some cops said he had a knife in his hand. Oh, really? From 15 feet away, he's holding a knife straight up, and that's why you shot him?
But I mean, he might have had his wallet in his hand. And then, I don't know.
On, man.
I mean, he might have had his wallet in his hand.
Yeah.
And, there's been enough cases now where people have actually come out and said, oh, yeah, there's video of cops planning stuff.
Yeah.
And they're, and they've come out and said
yeah, if there was no video of this, it would have been an open and shut case, He came after my gun. He tried to get my taser.
Standing stark still when he got shot.
Well, and
they were about 15 feet away.
Why would they, why did they do it though? Why shoot him? Like, is your heart beating too fast?
Let me ask you this though, is there less publicity about it because it was a Hispanic guy and two Hispanic officers? Because there's not one white dude involved in this shooting.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's why it's not getting near as much press, because it's three Hispanic individuals.
Right.
But the officers' names are like Ramirez and Sanchez. I know Sanchez is one of them.
Uh-huh.
But is that why? Because if it would have been a fucking white guy who did that, I'm sure the media would have plastered it all over the news.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm not crying racism against whites. I'm just wondering why it's not a bigger story. Guy gets shot in what appears to be an illegitimate.
Well, you understand though. There's a narrative right now of
right.
So when something
but
happens,
even inside that narrative of police brutality, if it's not fitting the stereotype of police brutality, we're not going to hear about it.
Well, we heard about it
barely. Compared to
I never heard about
compared
it
to Freddie Gray, bro.
Nope.
Compared to Freddie Gray, you haven't
Right.
heard it at all. Do you know the guy's name?
No.
Well,
right, but you'll never forget Freddie Gray's name, will
Right.
you?
Well, that's
Good
because the people
Or Michael Brown. We'll never forget his
people
name.
getting killed by
Trayvon.
cops is kind of over. It's kind of not the flavor of the month anymore. You know what I mean?
So the media is just cops getting killed by people. Is that the flavor of the month?
And that's not what.
So
they're
that's what the
reporting
media
on.
is on.
That's what they're reporting on.
Yeah,
And the ridiculous thing
gotta
about
get off
that
this
is
train.
the ridiculous thing about that is like any cop that has been killed. I'm pretty sure the people who shot them and killed them are in jail now awaiting trial.
Right.
Which
I think
that's
for the most
big,
part they've
huge
all been
difference.
apprehended.
Yeah, that's a big,
Manhunt.
huge difference between the cops that have shot civilians, no matter what the circumstances is. Most of them are still on the force, and and just doing their job. Again.
Or free, because there's instances like where the guys who beat up Kelly
still on
Thomas,
the
the
force.
guys who beat him to death. Well, they're not on the force anymore, but the guy's he's not doing any time.
Right.
And you killed that guy. You beat him to death while he was screaming for his dad.
And you got fired.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
Imagine beating a dude to death at the hospital and getting fired. Fuck.
Yeah.
Really? I got fired? Well, fuck. Let me beat somebody else to death. Shit. Like, it's no big deal. Like, I can do that every time I get pissed off if I have the right job.
Well, and that's a difference, and that's the ridiculousness of the argument that Fox News is trying to produce, which is this Black Lives Matter thing is
motivating
all
police
these terrible police executions.
Nah, bullshit. It's just like that. That's like saying Glock's motivating mass shootings. No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They don't give a fuck. They might be lobbying for the gun industry, just like Black Lives Matter is lobbying for fucking black people to get better treatment by fucking police, but they're not responsible for fucking police getting shot any more than Glock's responsible if I go out and fucking cap off a bunch of rounds at Circle K today.
Well, there's legislation that's been proposed that you could sue a gun company when their product was used for killing. And on the reasonable
then
side
I
of
should
that,
be able to fucking sue Ford if a drunk driver kills my fucking husband, or I should be able to sue the state because you issued the driver's license.
The thing is, in a lot of cases, you can sue companies,
or if
their item led to, like, in some sense, the gun industry is actually less regulated than like the hammer and car industry, because I don't know what the stipulations are, but in some cases, if a item is used to kill someone, you can sue the maker of that product in a lot of cases. So.
Well, let me just throw some reality on this. So, unless you're really rich and able to just hire a lawyer and
you're never going to make it through the appeals,
or have a really open and shut case. I got shot by a person at a party, and I talked to a couple lawyers about this, and basically the only person that I was going to be able to sue was my friends whose house I was at, if they had renter's insurance.
That's it.
Did you just post a picture of that like the night you got shot?
Not recently, but there is one floating around.
I thought it was like a flashback picture that Facebook put up from you.
It might have. I don't know.
Because it showed you sitting somewhere and it said, like, yeah, I got shot. Like, something like that was the caption of the picture.
Yeah, where I showed my elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so, I mean, there's that, so.
Well, I think everybody who's tried to sue a gun manufacturer is lost.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was just talking about trying to sue the guy who shot me.
Yeah.
That wasn't, the lawyers didn't think that was a good case.
Why not? You can't sue a civil suit to a guy who shot you?
Is it because, did you initiate the contact with him?
No. Well, I mean, I guess I did, but he came into the party, started hitting on this girl that was my friend. So then I jumped on him and, I initiated contact with him, but he came into the party and started doing something.
Oh, well, that's probably
before that. Yeah. So, but I'm just saying. So, like, there's all this. People like to talk about stuff and analyze stuff and think about stuff in their mind, and then when it comes out to real day-to-day stuff, it doesn't work that way.
But if it's legislation that you can sue them, then it's going to work a little different.
If you can.
Probably.
I mean, I can only talk about from my experience.
I'm betting that won't pass because there's enough of a lobby from the gun industry where moms demand action ain't going to be able to come up with the kind of money that Remington and Colt are. So.
Nope. Right.
Well, that's why no gun legislation gets passed. I mean, you had like the Brady bill in the 90s, and then that ran out, so that's not even a law anymore, right?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things that Bush did, actually let that lapse. I'm like, he's not going to sign that. Like, I remember counting the days till that thing went, and then like, legit Glock magazines went down from like $200 to $20.
Wow.
Like,
well, and they just banned certain magazines over. I don't know if it's over
not
20 rounds. Or
where?
Yeah, federally. They just passed a ban.
I would have totally heard this.
That didn't happen. Fact check that.
Well, Bob Spasm has been posting about it for the last couple of
weeks. Bob might be getting misinformed.
Yeah, Bob's
because there's nothing I've heard. I've been at the gun store recently. There's no way that I would not have heard that high caps were banned again.
In his war against hippies.
Yeah, Bob.
where him and Dan and a lot of those guys. What is this thing against hippies? Like, when is the last time they were bothered by a hippie? Like, are there any hippies left even? Like, what? Aren't you aware of what I'm talking about? Bob is always like, goddamn hippies, patchouli. It's all he ever says. Like,
so stay away from 4th Avenue during the street fair
not
and you're
even,
good.
not
Yeah, and
even
you're good.
now.
Like,
it's like
It's all students.
It's like an imaginary enemy that isn't even there anymore.
There's the hippie gypsy, and that's it.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like-
but I'm
I think he's
pretty
thinking
sure,
about
honestly,
the
Mark, though,
70s.
I'm pretty sure Bob's wrong. I'm on so many
It could
Yeah.
be.
I'm
There's
on
no
so many
federal-
sites where that would have been a big deal.
Yeah. All right. Next topic, final topic. Not final, but we'll see what happens. So, speech policing on college campuses. Big movement by I don't know, feminists and groups that ultra
I
liberal.
already
sort
know
of-
where Mark is on this.
Oh yeah, well I know where you are on it and where I am too. I think these groups have banned, or in a lot of colleges, and are trying to in others, what they call microaggressions,
Oh God.
which are little behaviors or words used that can be used to that can be offensive to other groups. So, for instance, asking an Asian person where they were born is considered a microaggression because it assumes that they're not Americans or something like that. And then so there's microaggressions are banned, and then there's what's known as trigger warnings. So what this means is that people are demanding that professors who talk about, say they talk about sexual assault or a rape case or rape law, they're not allowed to, they're supposed to say, their trigger warning, we're going to be talking about something in the next few minutes that could trigger trauma, a traumatic memory. And in books and
Do individual students get their own bubble? Do you get a bubble to sit in class and roll around the
Right.
fucking campus? It's ridiculous.
So
I actually agree with that. I think it's good.
okay, hold on. So
So do you get-
wait. So
Chris, where were you born?
Don't ask me that.
But so it's more aggressive, microaggressive, to ask an Asian person where they were born, thinking maybe might be New York, might be Chicago, might be San Francisco, rather than just stating, so you were born in a rice paddy.
right, that would be offensive.
But it's not microaggression.
No, that's just racist.
That's full out aggression.
Yeah.
I think you've turned it up.
Yeah.
You've turned it up to 10.
But I wouldn't be. You
wouldn't be microaggressive,
College
yeah, you would
because of
be.
it.
Yeah,
Of course you would.
Oh,
be.
they'd crucify you,
Yeah.
man. You've really crossed the line.
Oh, yeah.
You've jumped right into the fire.
I mean, when I was in college, I was pretty conservative still, and a friend of mine was in an elevator on campus with a couple of black people that he worked with, and the one was his boss, and the other was a young lady, a student, and so he put like a white T-shirt he had, and he like turned it into a Klan hood, like wrapped it around his head in the elevator, and was like, said something like, "Oh, I'm going to get you," to his black boss, and the boss just laughed because they did that kind of thing. But the girl in the elevator was not so happy, and so she reported it, and he was he was kicked out. And I wrote articles in the school newspaper defending him from a conservative point of view and saying it was reverse racism and stuff, and trying to get it appealed. And actually, my article was, I found out the super liberal professor had printed it out and passed it out to the whole class as an example of why conservatives are evil and wrong, and it had them like study it as to why, how horrible.
You were the example of conservatives.
Yeah, my article.
That's
yeah.
funny, boy. How much that card has flipped.
Yeah.
Did he give a trigger warning before he passed?
Yeah,
it
there's
out?
no such thing as that back then. And
Trigger warning.
How many kids were scarred from that?
yeah.
Yeah.
So some classes, you'd literally we're about to discuss
Yes.
Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah.
But-
The pamphlet on your desk is a list of trigger warnings.
Yes.
Because there's about a million of them in the next hour. So we're going to waste this whole class while you read your fucking trigger warnings, you fucking sissies.
And there's an article in the Atlantic by...
this is the sissification of the
Well,
entire
yes. Well,
fucking world.
It's called the coddling...
Well, this country for sure.
Yeah, the article is called "The Coddling of the American Mind," and he was
Right.
saying that this is damaging. This is bad for it's bad for the students themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just the professors
It is.
who are saying professors are by the dozens are writing in and calling and saying, "I'm a liberal professor and I feel like haunted by my liberal students," or like they're coming after us, like they're demanding, websites that first started using trigger warnings, really liberal magazines on the internet, they said they started using them. They do trigger warning, but then they said we're getting 40, 50 different groups or issues that now we have to do trigger warnings for, and so they would just throw the whole thing out because
you can't.
it's impossible.
It's half your magazine's a trigger warning.
Right.
And
Well,
even
they
from a
should
mental
do that.
health point of view, I mean, this is very damaging. I remember starting to read about that, and it was so horrible I couldn't even finish reading it. I mean, it's the worst thing you can do, especially on a college campus, for these kids that have probably been overprotected, over-trophied their whole lives. Now they're out on their own, and they're getting this coddling in an educational setting that's not in any way preparing them for the world.
Exactly. That's not preparing them for what they're going to face in the
Right.
real world, where no one gives a crap about their feelings.
Yeah, no one's going to say, "Oh, trigger warning here." I mean, this.
Well, like the crazy examples
They
were
should start doing that though.
like they were
Like when
telling
you pick up when you're going to watch Old Yeller, trigger warning,
Yeah.
the dog dies at the end.
Well, some of these students were demanding from their law professor that she not use the word violate, even in the context of violates the law, because it has a context of rape, and so not to use that word. And they're walking out of class and they're suing their professors.
Let me offend a bunch of people then, man. If you're that sensitive,
Brian,
if you're that sensitive, just go ahead and fucking kill yourself, man.
Yeah.
You're not for this world. You're
Right.
not. You can't live here.
handle it.
You
Yeah.
can't fucking handle it. If you're that sensitive, that's like saying, you can't say moist.
right.
I can't say words that are like, it's the word that I need to use for this fuck. It violates the terms of our agreement.
Yeah.
I got to go as a professor because I said violate. This is fucking dumb.
Oh,
this is the dumbest
really
shit I can
scary.
think of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's kind of scary.
It
What
is.
if you're a
It's
botanist and you
policing.
have a
It's-
speech
Yes,
impediment?
it's
Oh,
very
man.
much.
It's
it's
violate.
like 1984.
All these violates,
Violets,
roses
I
and
get it.
violates.
Yeah. So
It violates free speech.
Well, but see,
it's very much
this is what I was.
1984.
This is
The
what I was
guy,
talking about.
the guy who said you should be able to say whatever. What weren't your words? You should be able to say whatever the fuck you want to
Yeah.
whoever the fuck you want.
Yeah, but not in college because or in if you're in court or I mean you're supposed to tell the truth, but in a government institution thing or college, then guess what? If all these laws that they're making are supposed to affect people, then they definitely should affect them there. Like I can go out on the street.
Well, why? But
and
it's a
say,
private
"Fuck you,"
college
I
now.
mean, I
We're
think-
talking private colleges
Yeah.
too.
Well, if it's a
So
private
college, private business.
Well,
I mean,
but a private college, they're probably not.
But if the college
putting these
agrees
things-
to make that,
If the
that
college
law,
agrees to do that, if a private college agrees to do that, they're a bunch
well,
of
that's what
fucking
they're
Yeah,
doing.
they really
That's
are.
what they're doing.
Now,
They're caving into
but
the
I don't know
pressure.
if we're talking about private colleges.
Sometimes,
I
some
think a
of them.
lot of it is the
State
fucking state colleges.
yeah.
Which I'm sorry, you fucking all voted for all this bullshit for the state to have power over you and for them to be doing this shit. So guess what? I'm not surprised, and neither should you be.
No, actually, there's an article that just came out in, what is it called, Mind Magazine, about what's happening with kids, that the college campuses, private and public, are becoming mental institutions.
Right.
Because these kids are so fragile and so unable to cope with stress or failure or making a mistake that they become suicidal, they get depressed, and that basically it's causing the universities to have to try to, like, parent them,
Yeah.
basically. And
Well, yeah,
it's-
because it's parents who have never. They're sending they're rich people and they send their
Yeah,
kids off to get this thing in
overprotected.
business college so they can work for daddy and yeah, it's
It's
You know,
very
doesn't surprise
because
me.
for the most part, it ain't poor kids that are going to college.
No.
No, that's exactly that. It brought that up too.
It's like probably a small
Uh-huh.
percentage
Oh, yeah.
of kids going
Well,
to
it's
college are poor
definitely-
kids. Poor kids don't go to college till they're older and they're working and they're scrounging their way through, like Zyra's doing right now, like I'm doing right
like
now,
Paul is doing. And
like Paul is doing right
like,
now.
Yeah, it's when you're young though, it's a feeling of being a part of something, but it's nasty because it's so controlling. They want to control what the professors can do. And I get the fact that they think they're activists for something positive, but it's definitely a symptom of privilege because only in a country where you don't have to worry about actual aggression, like physical aggression against you, can you start thinking about microaggression.
We're a culture of spinning our fucking wheels.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because your little crusade against the word violate doesn't do a fucking thing to stop rape.
No.
It doesn't do a fucking thing to stop violence against women. It's just stupid. You're fucking spinning your wheels. You're fighting the wrong fight. There's a fight out there. I'll give you that. Yeah. There's a fight out there, but this ain't it. Yeah. And what I think it is you don't have the fucking courage or the balls to fight the real fight. This one's easy.
No,
you got a stationary target that's a sissy, and you're a bully in your own right.
Yeah.
You're a bully. So you, easily offended American, are part of the problem. You're a bully.
And also it shuts down communication. I mean,
and debate,
the whole thing of like
at a college.
Rape. Let's let you use the word rape. That brings awareness. People can start discussing.
It's supposed to make your heart rate go
right.
up when you hear that
it's
word.
A horrible
you don't
thing.
start shutting it all down like nothing ever existed.
Yeah.
That's the opposite.
And college
of what's
is supposed to be
effective.
the center of intellectual
Yes.
discussion and debate. It's supposed to be where you can think about every side, and every side has
get
a voice.
enlightened, get educated.
Right.
Educate is not about what you want to learn.
Right.
It's just about learning. If we only learned what we wanted to, God, I mean, I might be a little happier. I might have stayed in school longer.
So I early on, when I started the show, I invited Dr. Monica Casper, head of the Gender Studies Department at the U of A, to be on the show. And she's gotten back to me a few times, and I've kept trying to get her. And her assistant recently emailed me and said she might be available in March or April. So she's a busy woman for sure. But... Chris, I don't know if do you identify yourself as a feminist?
Generally, yeah. I do.
So good. So I have a lot of questions that I've been thinking about for her, but that I also ask our other guests who do identify that way. And one of them is...
I think she'll answer this one if it's the one I'm thinking. I think she'll have an answer.
Which one is it?
About what masculine qualities do you find good? What is acceptable about being a man or masculine? I think she'll have an answer for you.
Like Brian said, here's my question to people who are feminists. It's first of all, because a lot of times a feminist will say that you can't really define feminism itself or even the term feminine. So it's many things to many people, in other words. And that's a little frustrating to me because I like analytic things where we can nail things down and then get to an answer. But I do understand that, look, there's billions of women and there's billions of men with feminine qualities. I think every individual has both masculine and feminine qualities to a more or less degree. And so it makes sense that you can't quite nail down what the feminine is. But for these words to have meaning and for us to be able to talk about gender at all, we have to, it's called feminism apparently because it's about women and the feminine impulses of people. So I think there are qualities and virtues that could be called feminine, and there are ones that could be called masculine as well. So I don't know if you agree with that, but my question for feminists is, what is masculine? So what are masculine qualities? And it doesn't mean only men have them. If that question is answered, it wouldn't mean that only men have them. It would mean that everyone who has masculine properties would have these qualities. So do you believe that these things can be defined, and do you have impressions of what constitutes masculinity in a person? Are there certain behaviors or attitudes that could be considered masculine, negative or positive?
I don't really... First of all, feminism really isn't analyzing the feminine or the masculine. Feminism is just basically saying, it's for gender equality, basically.
Right, rights and legal...
Rights and opportunities and all of that. It's about not objectifying women, basically, as has been traditionally happened.
When traditionally we would say that care, tenderness, gentleness would be feminine virtues, as well as others like open-mindedness, I think, mediating arguments. I think most people would think of these as feminine qualities or virtues. Whereas
I don't believe that.
You don't think that
I think
way.
that's all a product of socialization.
Right. So that's all just concept that we've stuck to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you could see men being very nurturing. These
But
sort of
like I said-
masculine nurture. I mean,
Right, but like I said, it's not that that would only be things that
Right.
women do.
Right.
It would be that all men, in my opinion, have feminine impulses. And
Right.
so those qualities, I would say, would be in a man
Well,
to the
how,
degree.
Then how can you attribute any quality to either sex if everybody has the possibility of having that?
I think
Because
what he's
I mean,
saying
like
is
tough,
one
like-
would
like
be
in
more,
our society,
more dominant
right?
in one.
Right. The ratio
No,
would
right,
be
but
different in
right.
each
But
individual.
Like
Right.
women are generally more nurturing than men. Men are generally
But
more
in this society,
aggressive.
in this society, maybe
Well-
some
Well,
other
I think
society,
that's-
maybe not. So
Well-
see, like you would say,
But more
tough,
often
right?
than not.
Like,
Because of the
right,
child
like you'd say, oh,
bearing.
tough is masculine, right? But then women give birth to children,
Well,
and that is
Tolerance
I
of
would
pain.
say
way
tough,
more tolerance of
tough
pain
is
than
more,
most men ever
Well, see, to
feel.
me though, I would say
So-
toughness is something more in the middle,
Very general.
where
Right.
aggression would be more of a male quality, where like
if you're
passivity
in
and
an-
tolerance
and
or
that's hormone
compassion.
mediated.
But if you're in an
basically.
Amazon
Okay.
culture,
Right.
aggression would not be a masculine quality; it'd be a feminine quality.
Yeah, but there's not really an Amazon culture.
But there
left.
have been.
Yeah, but they're dead. It's a dead. Like
Well, but
what's
that doesn't-
going
that
on now?
doesn't
But the feminist
change the
movement
fact.
wasn't around when there was an Amazon
This
culture.
has nothing to do with feminism, though.
I thought we were fucking talking about feminism. Isn't
Right,
that
but,
what we're
but
talking
masculine
about?
or feminine qualities aren't really.
We're talking
no,
about
no,
that
no.
within the context of feminism.
Let's just hold on. We're not. It doesn't have to be about feminism. Actually, it can be the question can just be this to each one of you: do you believe that it's useful and true to attribute certain behaviors and attitudes to a masculine impulse and to a feminine impulse? Is there a useful way to do that, or is it, like you said, is it all just relative and a cultural invention?
Oh, I agree with that. I think it is.
But when you said the hormone regulated
Well-
thing, that's a physical attribute.
But that's how would you put it? I mean, men with testosterone. I mean, women who have what is it called? What is it? Polycystic ovarian syndrome. They have a great deal more testosterone their body is producing, and they
Right.
will have a lot of so-called masculine characteristics. They'll have more hair,
but
their voice can
behaviorally
be-
too, maybe, right?
Maybe, yeah, because testosterone is
Has a-
activating,
right.
And there's the that's what it's for.
So then you would seem to be saying that,
there are qualities that are masculine, but they're driven by physiology.
right?
Yeah, and then the rest, society.
Invents.
right, and then also testosterone, as she said, is in both men and women.
So is
Right,
estrogen.
that's-
So is estrogen. It's just the
Right.
levels of
Right,
it.
and that
So
goes
then, how
completely
can
to
you
what I
even?
was saying.
So how can you even attribute testosterone or estrogen to like one or the other? You
Well,
can say that.
Do you remember when
there's
Arnie
more
accidentally
of
got the
this
estrogen?
in one
That's what we're saying.
general than the other? But you can't just attribute it to it and say estrogen is female, testosterone is
No.
male. You can't say that.
Well,
because
but
it's in both.
But you can't.
But
both in both.
it's not used for the same things in both of our bodies. Estrogen, as a feminine hormone, drives a lot of other hormonal
Right.
systems,
Right.
and it doesn't do those things in
To
men.
men,
It
right.
doesn't. It's
Plus-
estrogen is a minor player in the
Yeah.
male physiology, and it's a
And vice
huge
versa.
player in the female physiology. On the other end,
Well, right,
testosterone,
because-
a major
because the
player in
levels.
male development. Well, no, it's because of what we are. Like, we need that testosterone to activate other things. It binds to other receptors and
Yes.
causes other
Plus those-
endocrine cascades.
Plus, those levels determine your maturation in,
Yeah.
in the development of sexual
of
organs,
male sex organs
and muscles and this and that,
semen
Beard.
and
Right.
all those
Right.
things. So men have to have more of it to become physically the male of the species. So,
But you're kind of doing a chicken or the egg thing.
well, that's
'Cause
just
it's
this is
kinda
what I
like-
learned in
No, no, no,
biology.
no,
So
but-
it is
but-
chickens and eggs.
Right. But if a man has more estrogen than testosterone, then are they
He's-
going to
he's-
develop the same as a
No,
regular man?
then he's broken.
Or would
Then he
they-
needs
right,
testosterone
right.
therapy. Then
So,
he's got
and
a
that's- and-
defect,
but
basically.
does that happen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there men with more estrogen
Yes.
than
Yeah.
testosterone?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
So
have to. My
but
There's
buddy's
exceptions. to
Arnie's
the
on
rule.
testosterone therapy for years,
Just
and when he got estrogen by accident once, he's like, "Why am I so sensitive? Like, why am I
Right.
crying at commercials?"
Right.
So, like, he was more prone to it because of a hormonal cascade that was happening in his body. So, I think they're
And this to
So
me
you-
shows that there's more than just relative cultural values to that's why I still think there's usefulness to the terms feminine and masculine as identifiers, and always remembering that every individual has both
Yeah.
in some ratio.
And a great way to look at it is transgender.
Right.
I mean, I have a couple friends who are male to or female to male transgender, and literally, when they start taking the testosterone, they have described, that kind of, especially when they're first adjusting to it, a little more irritable,
aggro.
yeah, definitely, and they get the voice changes the same way.
And it's
So
weird because I think you got to find a release for that aggro. You have to. If you have enough testosterone to make you aggro, you got to find a release for it. I'm having problems right now, man, because I haven't been training because my foot hurts so fucking bad, and I'm not getting it out.
Right.
So I'm finding myself to be more irritable.
And so for that, competitiveness is traditionally thought of as a masculine virtue, and I tend to agree with that. So to me, it does make sense to identify things as feminine and masculine, and beyond just cultural influences.
That made me really think about the cultural influence, though, when you brought up competitiveness.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the things that society put down by telling girls this isn't what girls
Right.
do. Like, I remember a Nike commercial about 15 years ago that was citing statistics in a weird way. It was saying, if you let your girl play sports, she will be this much less likely to stay with a man who beats her. She will be this much more likely to get like the job that she wants. She will be this much more likely to not feel these self-esteem issues. And I thought, as soon as you said that, I thought, okay, that's definitely a culture one, because look at how much it's changing. The competitive drive that you see a lot of these girls having now. You tell me there's a dude on earth who has more competitive drive than Ronda Rousey does, and I don't.
Well, I think
it.
there's a lot of men who have the same amount.
Right, but
Or
I
the
don't think
US
there's one who
women's
has
soccer
more.
team.
Or those girls, yeah. The way girls are competing now has it. The instinct is being nurtured more in them than it
Definitely
was
true.
before.
But I think that's consistent with what I'm saying, because there's a cultural aspect to it, but also what I would say is that these girls are just being allowed to express their masculine traits.
Right.
And see, I think that would be very controversial among a lot of feminists or academic feminists for me to say when a girl is competing in sports, she's expressing her masculinity. I think that's perfectly true to say.
Well, and that doesn't bother me at all to say. Like if I was watching a kid to say, look, Brian's expressing his feminine side, it wouldn't bother me at all to hear that.
Exactly.
I'd be like, yeah.
That's been said for millennia. Right. And I think it's controversial because people keep conflating masculine with male or man,
and feminine with
woman,
with your makeup wearing, petite.
When it's more of a concept,
right?
Well, they think that when I say Ronda Rousey is expressing her masculinity, I think the feminists would not like that, because I would be saying this really good thing about Ronda is a masculine thing. They wouldn't like that. They would want to say, no, it's a woman thing. But I don't think it has anything to do with man or woman. I think it's just that's her masculinity being expressed, and she loves to dress up and look pretty and wear dresses
and be girly.
Loves it all the time.
I gotta say though, some of the shit that Rhonda wears, like there's got to be like, what the fuck was Rhonda wearing blog out there somewhere.
She's so rich now that she's wearing like high fashion, which doesn't look good to the rest of us. But
no, but I think it's the problems with the words.
Yeah,
I think that they can be so limiting, like masculine.
So
does
it come back to political correctness? Like we can't.
Sports wouldn't be feminine. There's
that's why
or being nurturing as a man isn't masculine.
Well, because I think if you just erase that line and you say that it makes no sense to attribute those behaviors to masculine or feminine, you just lose the ability to talk about masculine and feminine. And maybe a lot of feminists would like that. They would say, good, let's just get rid of those terms altogether. But to me, they have some objective basis in reality, and they're still useful terms for describing behaviors and qualities in people. So are you on the fence about that? I mean, do you think, because you were just suggesting maybe not saying that Rhonda is expressing her masculinity in her fighting and competitiveness.
Well,
No,
I never
I'm just
thought
saying
about
as
it
a
like that before
as
today.
A concept, it's like, well, I can just see that some women would say, well, that's her expressing her femininity. So it would just be each person's view of how to use
I think
the
I'm
words.
stuck. I want those terms because I want to analyze the world in terms of a philosophical basis where I have terms to say.
But you want to say, so if a girl is aggressive or competitive or whatever in sports and physical sports, then you want to say she's expressing her masculinity.
Yeah.
What if a man is a grandmaster at chess? Are you going to still say that's a very masculine quality of him?
Yes.
Because he's very aggressive and competitive?
Yeah, I would.
Or and if a girl was a grandmaster at chess, would you say that's a very masculine quality of hers?
Well, I would.
As masculine as playing physical sports? Because I don't think most people would.
No, maybe
I think
not
most
as.
people would attribute mental skills to the feminine and the physical skills to the masculine, even if really it's just your skills, what you are skilled at, what you are the best
Right.
at, and whether you're a man or a woman, that's
Well, if these
it doesn't
concepts,
really matter.
and I'm going to agree
That's
with you
more
in a
in line
really
with
weird way.
feminism.
If these concepts of masculinity and femininity
We got
femininity actually exist, then that might be just that expressing itself in your own personal context. Like if we all have masculine and feminine traits, all of us around here, okay, your masculinity is going to express itself in a different way than mine or John does because of the individual
Certainly.
things that
Right.
you bring to the table, just like the
But that's-
femininity that any of us would display would be expressed in a different way too. So it's more of an individual thing inside that concept if we're talking about it in this.
But in
this context.
here's the thing about
But
chess.
I agree with that.
Particularly though, when you bring up chess, is that of the 100 top grandmasters in the world, 99 are men.
That's fine. So let's say you're a badass knitter.
Yeah.
So you can knit the fuck out of anything.
Yeah,
you
you're
can
like
make
a crochet
sweater
ninja.
in-
Well, let's talk
in
about
an
poke-
hour, and
Right.
you go and compete at like knitting competitions and stuff like that, and you're really down to like kick all the other bitches' asses. Like, would you be like, oh, she's very masculine in that?
Well, no,
that's her
I
masculinity,
would.
Just a masculine-
representing itself.
I would, yeah.
The competitiveness, maybe.
What would you say, like for women whose children are threatened and they get all
Right,
out
really angry and like are gonna
That's a
mother
good
bear,
example.
Mother bear on it.
That's a good example because the protection of children is so strongly correlated with females,
Yeah.
But to call it a masculine or feminine, I might say that's them expressing masculinity, but that really would put me in a weird place because women are so much. I don't know. Do men defend their children less aggressively than women? I don't think so.
It depends,
No.
I think,
Yeah.
on the individual and the animal because they do. Like I think of prides of lions. Like the male will defend the. Is he defending the children or is he defending his right to the
I think
pride?
he's defending like his kinghood.
kingdom, yeah.
Because a male grizzly will come and eat the fucking cubs to,
Right.
to force
Lions
her back
do-
into
lions
heat.
do
Yeah,
it
they
too.
do the same thing.
Yeah.
Take over and they spread their seed.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure that's what the lion is protecting is his children. I don't think it is. I think the
bloodline.
lioness is protecting her children.
Yeah.
And I think the mama bear is protecting her children. But I know that the male bear ain't protecting the children.
It almost seems like a reluctant display of violence, though, for the sake of caretaking.
Well, and I think that's what it is with the mother.
'Cause the
She's not.
bluffing-
She's going to run, and she'll bluff you a few times before she decides to bust your ass.
Yeah, that's a good.
She doesn't
good
want to
question,
fight.
though.
She will.
I think that puts my little theory in a bit of a bind, bit of a pickle.
It's a great question. I took a sex roles class at the 300 level in college. We never had a fucking discussion this good.
I know, and this is the stuff that
It
doesn't
might
get
have
talked
offended
about.
somebody.
Yeah.
Trigger warning.
Yeah. We didn't give John. I'm not getting my trigger warnings before the show.
Damn it!
What the fuck's going on, man?
Trigger warning. Richter
Well, hold-
aggressions.
Yeah, I'm going to hold you to that next week. I want my trigger warnings. What's going to make me angry?
Well, the where I'm going with all that, and where I'll go when the professor is here, is that. So I wanted to get everyone to agree that okay, it makes sense to say there are masculine behaviors and attitudes, and there are feminine. So I might not have achieved that, but once that's agreed to, I want to ask a feminist, what do you like about masculinity, because we hear about, and here's the thing, feminists do use this term a lot. They say toxic masculinity or hegemonic there's all these academic terms. Toxic masculinity is one of them, particularly, where they say, it's the bad aspects of masculinity, basically, like sexual violence and just over aggression and over competitiveness.
But women can do the same thing. Women can be sexually violent.
Sure, but it's just so overwhelmingly a male phenomenon. Rape, is just so overwhelmingly committed by males, and burglaries, and men are the best in so many games and sports, like chess and poker and all these different things. Men dominate, but they also dominate in all the horrible shit, like murder and war and beating people up and stealing and any kind of violent crime, and even non-violent crime. It's just drug dealers. There's 90% men, everything. So there's I have a huge agreement that there's a million ways for masculinity to go bad and be toxic to society. But I think if they're going to talk about toxic masculinity, to me, they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They're throwing the whole masculinity thing away and saying, there's nothing for us to learn here. There's nothing good here. Oh. And I want to ask a feminist, what do you like about the masculine?
Well, and see,
what
do
you
like
even subscribe to those beliefs.
Right.
Well, and if you look at that,
that's like radical feminism.
Yeah. In nature, that's just wrong. There has to be balance.
Right.
There has to be balance. So there can't be nothing that you can learn from half of your species.
And I think
it can't be. We're not fucking useless.
And another thing I want to say is that feminists are basically the what's right about everything they do is basically that they're telling a lot of men who don't have a huge feminine impulse what it's like to be a woman. It's like you haven't thought about these things. Like, men, you're in charge of so many institutions, but you haven't thought about what it's like to be scared in a subway tunnel, or walking down the street, or you don't know what that's like. And the more I listen to feminists and women, the more I get that, and I'm like, oh man, they have to worry about shit I've never even thought about, or childbirth, all these things. Like, it's good, it's radical agnostic to put yourself in the shoes of someone different from you. But as valuable as that is, the same thing must apply to women who don't know what it's like to be men. And I think they assume a lot of times that it's all good, it's all advantageous.
No,
it's like, do you know what it's like to feel responsible for physically guarding your girlfriend or your this or that, or your house? Like, do you know what that is like? Are you sure you want that? Do you know what it's like to take menial jobs that are extremely dangerous? Construction. Men die at like 50 times the rate of women at work. Men die 7 to 10 years earlier than women all over the world on average. And if that was reversed, it would be a huge scandal. Women would be saying, look, the lives you're forcing us into are killing us, but it's actually men that are dying so much younger. And there might be physiological, they don't know why that is, actually. The scientists are not agreed on why men die so much younger than women. So I don't know but part of it is probably due to violence. So they get shot by the cops way more. They get shot by each other way more. And they take dangerous jobs. They're crab fishing in Alaska and they fall off the boat, So
plus
But I would say, that's another societal thing. Who says men are the ones that need to be taking these jobs, even combat?
Well, it's an interesting question. I am skeptical about
that is a social thing, because combat is because women are the ones who bear the children. So men are going to be the ones that we can lose. That's okay. A society can send the young men off to die, because if they die, it's not a big issue.
Send another
Women
one.
can have more children. Even the older men that didn't go off to war can have sex with those women and produce more offspring.
So say those women don't want to have offspring and they'd rather be a soldier.
But that's then another societal thing.
Yeah.
That's as society changes, then women want to do this or that. But it still, eventually, that society will die off if the majority of women decide they don't want offspring, because you're not going to be producing children. So that society is going to eventually go away.
Well, I think it's about choices. Again,
it's about individual choices.
In a tribe, that would
we're talking
make
about
sense.
a tribe or society.
In a tribe, that approach would make more sense. In a country of 350 million, you don't need to think about. We don't need to dictate our policies as to who can be in combat.
As people realize that they don't really want children or whatever, I mean, your population decreases unless you allow immigration. And we're trying to shut down immigration. So, I mean, if we shut that down and the majority of people stop wanting to have kids...
Well, I don't think low population is anything we have to worry about.
No, I'm not worried about it. I'm just saying that eventually that if, all the factors...
But that
would
because
go
I mean,
away.
if you look at Israel, men and women fight the same. They're all soldiers there, and they're not.
Everyone
suffering.
has to spend 2 years in the army.
Yeah,
Right. Well, that's also a little tiny country surrounded by enemies, so they have a little more.
Yeah, I read an article by a female
incentive.
soldier who was arguing. She's conservative. She was arguing against women in combat. She served over there, and she was just saying her argument wasn't that great, but it was basically when you add a woman in there with the male squad or whatever, they start thinking that they have to protect her more, and it throws the balance off of the team, the unit cohesion, which you have to have, which is basically, I trust you with my life, I trust you with my life, and if there's a woman there and you have to change your operations to because you feel you have to defend her. So her argument was basically, in the context of gender stereotypes, which is the world we live in, females in combat, not a good idea.
but that's not how it is in Israel,
Right.
because they're all raised that way.
Right.
They're used
They're
to
raised
it. It's
differently.
all. It's all.
Well,
it's a
I
societal
would-
That's a good point.
influence.
It's
cultural.
But
Yeah.
could you point to Israel and say that they're a warlike society?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's why that is, because we're headed the other way. We're worried about, they're like, go kill some Palestinians, and we're like, don't say violate.
Don't say the
Yeah.
trigger word.
Don't say violate.
Yeah.
Don't offend any college kids, because God knows they're so fucking reasonable anyway.
Yeah.
I was such a reasonable person at 22. Like,
Yeah.
if you were worried about offending me at 22, brother, just worry all day, because anything you pretty much do is going to offend me. I'm sorry that your little 22-year-old pampered ass is offended. Maybe that's what we need. We need 2-year mandatory
Yeah, we
military
do.
service. Toughen the fuck up.
Yeah. We need to be toughened up.
Toughen up, man.
Well,
And if
all right.
nothing else, we can put you in the Corps of Engineers, and you can build some roads and bridges, because we're hurting on that end.
Yeah. Some levies.
So
Well, but also those qualities that you're trying to ascribe to masculine or feminine, and then, people are going to not like or speak out against because of it's a masculine thing or feminine, depending on what they're against. I mean, aggression, it's a masculine quality. Really, it's only ascribed to being a masculine quality because it's involved with testosterone, and there's more testosterone in men, and blah blah blah. But aggression, there's good aggression and there's bad
Right.
aggression.
Yeah, that was my
right?
point.
Exactly.
That's my point, is trying to
Definitely.
get from the feminist the good things about masculinity. That's
Right,
what I
but-
want to
but
hear.
just
that I've
like
never
being
heard.
passive has
but
good.
we have been-
boldness, being bold, being confident.
Yeah.
Sure,
these
but-
are the things that
And those are all
are
like
admirable
subtopics of aggressiveness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
confidence,
bold,
boldness,
confident, courageous.
you know, being courage. Yeah.
But so you might say, it's acceptable to say someone's bold or someone's courageous or whatever. Whereas if you say they're aggressive, it's more a negative term.
Right.
And that's just our
Aggro.
society, how it's what it is. That's in our day and age now. That's
So is it
how
a
we're thinking. So it's just
So is the mistake
how
we're making
language
trying to operate
changes.
within the framework that's already set for us? Is that what we're doing? Is that
That's
where the
what I
mistakes
think.
being made? We're trying to make sense of a framework that doesn't
That's
really make
archaic,
sense.
really.
Like it's
Yeah.
not working, and we're trying to make it work. And maybe
Yeah.
we should just fucking scrap it and go outside
Well,
of it.
that's
there's-
very,
and
very
that's-
modern.
And that's trying to
you
go
know.
against society too. I mean, there's tons of things that society
Let's
teaches
please
you.
go against society.
you know.
Let's please.
Well, but I mean,
Well, I mean, look at Target. What they're doing with their toys now.
Yeah, blue,
there's
pink,
no
and-
girls' toys.
No girl,
boards.
yeah.
and there's tons
So
of
they're
people
trying
that are
to, like,
going nuts
neutralize
about that.
everything.
Well, because a lot of people say, it's the toys when you're a kid that set you on this path where you think that you have to be a certain way.
Or parents' expectations.
So the question of, is it all cultural influence, or is some of it, biological or physical? It can never be answered, because the feminists will say, well, we won't know until there's no more cultural influence. We won't know if women gravitate towards these professions and men gravitate towards these professions
Right.
naturally until there's no childhood stereotyping.
Which is honestly a good point.
But it's a good point, but it can never be proven, right? Because one of the metrics by which they show that there are stereotypes is that women do go into some professions and men go into other professions. That's their part of their evidence for that children are being brainwashed. Mm-hmm. So you can never, until every man and every woman had 50-50 in every career, the feminists would still say, no, see, more men are becoming construction workers, therefore there's still a cultural stereotyping going on in childhood. I don't know if you understand where I'm going, but
I do, because you should see how people look at me when I tell them I'm going into what I'm going into. They're like, "What are you studying?" I'm like, "Dental hygiene." They're like, "Oh, that's weird." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I'm a man.
Yeah,
it's weird."
Or male nurses and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
and that's
which is not near as weird as a male dental hygienist. Apparently,
but it used to be.
It used to be.
But
Yeah.
now, like
they
at
make
the
big
ERs
jokes about
I
it on the
work in,
Fokker
there's as
movies.
many of the men as there are women nurses. But boy, like 20
well,
years ago, you would not have seen.
And like what I saw on the trails this year, and I'll tell you right now, Woods Creek Crossing, when we hit the Muir Trail, girls outnumbered guys 3-1 out there.
Wow.
And I've never seen that until recent years. More and more girls being into the backcountry, doing stuff that you would consider masculine.
And women
living off the land.
Women have some physical characteristics that make them superior to men at some physical tasks. There's not many of them, but there are some things that a woman's body, there's some physical tasks that a woman's body is better suited to than a man's.
Like other than childbirth.
Yeah.
Like hauling big things on your hips.
Yeah, the wide hips and the strong legs are particularly important for a lot of different
I think
like gymnastics and stuff like that, where they're small enough that they can flip without smashing their knees apart.
And I think you see in those sports where, like, especially like endurance sports, you don't see a huge drop-off in performance from the women to the men. I don't think.
Long-distance running and stuff, it's not as big as it is in other areas.
And our women, and I'll say this, like, sports that women have been traditionally encouraged to play, our women's soccer team, skill-wise, heart-wise, cohesiveness, they're fucking 3 times the team our men's team is. Yeah. Maybe even more. Maybe 5 to 10 times the team our men's team is. There's a huge lack of ego, a huge fucking spirit of unity, and those girls, every time I watch them play, I always tell Christine, I'm like, the heart these girls have is amazing.
They don't do nearly as much of that fake, the acting that male
no slopping.
You don't have the
if that girl's rolling around the ground acting hurt, she's fucking hurt. Because otherwise she pops right back up and gets ready to compete. The same thing with the female UFC fighters. Mad respect. There's never a boring women's fight. And I think to a certain degree, that's because women come in there feeling like they still have something to prove.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to not only smash my opponent, I'm trying to smash a gender role.
Well,
and it's not as fucking easy to smash a gender role as it is to smash the person standing in front of you.
Exactly.
Well, and also, there's not the audience for it. Like, women's soccer, there's not the crowds for women's soccer that there is for men's soccer.
Or the paychecks.
Actually, there's bigger in America. There's bigger crowds. The women's U.S. national team got better ratings than any men's soccer teams are getting.
Well, but that's in America.
Not worldwide.
It's because we have
in America, soccer's still...
Well, and that's because they're winners, and that's all we give a shit about in this country.
Won 3
Unless
times.
You're the Dallas Cowboys, then you can fucking lose all year and nobody cares.
But my point is that if, they might... If they start getting that audience and start getting those paychecks and it starts becoming more like accepted as men's professional sports are, they might get those egos. They might get that...
And when the paychecks go up and it becomes more about money.
Yeah, and there might be less about the team and more about individuals and standing out and, I got a poster that, or everyone's buying my jersey or whatever.
My cat has some problems right now that has to go to the vet and actually get like a surgery and stuff. But as I'm going in there to like the specialist who's going to do the surgery, I found myself just hoping that it was a woman. I'm like, man, I hope it's I want for doctors on my cat, I want it to be a woman. They seem to care more about the actual animal and have the skills. So they both have the expertise and they seem to like really want it to be okay. Whereas the male vets I've seen were perfectly capable, but they lift up the cat by like the way that they like lift it up by like the tail and the scruff. Like they have this old fashioned way of lifting up a cat. And
I've seen it both ways, man. Like I've seen some guys like go out of their way and call me like late at night. Like, I hope this isn't too late, but I was doing some research and I think I know what's wrong with your dog. And I'm like, dude, if you've figured out what's wrong with my dog that I'm sure is dying, please call me at 2 in the fucking morning. Like, wake me up, tell me to come down now.
I think vets in general, male or female, they're very they do love the animals, and that's a really good thing.
Well, not to mention they make a killing.
Yeah,
they make good.
They
money.
do well.
But you notice, both men and women that are vets have very nurturing sides.
They do, well, and they're like I've been to the remember Elena?
Yeah.
She was my vet for a while.
Yeah.
And when I came in, she's like, "Hey, who's this Mr. Bobus? Why haven't I met him?" And I got really sad, and I'm like, "Wow, he passed away 5 years ago." And she's like, "Wow, they still talk about him down here."
Yeah.
That's how they remember you guys. They remember that dog of yours. And I'm like, that's pretty good people, man.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years ago, my dog was dead, and she asked about him because they talk about him still.
Yeah.
So they're like, almost everybody who's a vet is in it for the right reason, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, plus they don't have to get as much malpractice insurance.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
A regular doctor.
But I have heard that there are more women veterinarians than men at this point. Like, there's more women going into veterinary school than there are men.
The general vet that I go into, and then the specialist place, every secretary, nurse, doctor, surgeon, and everyone in both offices was female. And
where are you
I was
going
happy
for the
about
specialty
that.
place? Southwest?
No, it's dermatology for animals place on a Campbell. All right. We're not going to talk about the migration problem thing because we're done. We're running out of time, but we'll hit that next time probably. Little teaser. Arizona immigration through Arizona is at historic lows. It's at 1/10 the level that it was in the early 2000s at the height of it. So that's another epidemic that we
I know
hear
what
about.
conservatives would say. They're already all here.
Yeah. And this year, for the first time,
or I don't know how many are being counted if they're sneaking in.
well, it's apprehensions.
They're illegal.
It's apprehension. Yeah.
So that could
they're all
mean,
just getting through.
That could just mean that they're not getting apprehended.
Yeah, I don't think that's
the
it.
Border Patrol's not doing their jobs.
Of all federal law enforcement, border immigration is half the budget of all federal. That's FBI, CIA, NSA, or of all the budget, half of
the
it
CIA
goes to
budget
border.
that you know about
Well,
that they're
yeah,
going to talk
it's not the
about. It
black
ain't
budget.
even close to the black budget.
Right.
You know, speaking of budgets, I'll just throw this out there. This is the first year in the history of it that the United States Forest Service will spend over half of its budget fighting fires. Over 8 million acres have burned this summer.
But climate change is a liberal hoax.
Yeah, it's a lie. There's no drought. Just like
No.
that pine beetle blight that's killing off swaths and swaths of pine trees because it doesn't get cold enough in the winter for the beetle to go dormant. But it's a liberal conspiracy.
Right.
Climate change.
Yeah.
Because they
Don't
want
believe the hype. Believe your stupid ass politician who's a business major.
because liberals
Or
want
God.
they want big government for the sake of big government. So that's why they came up with this climate change hoax, because they really just want to inflate the government for whatever any fake reason they can think of, because liberals somehow just love big government.
Well, it's not that people would have a vested interest in clean water, clean air,
No.
and a nice planet to live on. It's all a conspiracy about
Yeah.
government. You're
Yeah.
right. I don't want to drink water. I don't want to
Are
drink
we
water.
caricaturing the opposition, Mark?
No, I'm just saying don't confuse the fact of clean water, clean air, and all that as, if we give that responsibility to the government, that's going to be taken care of.
Well, we did, and they're failing us.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they're failing
So
us.
let's not confuse ourselves and
Okay.
think that if we give the government that
Give it to
role,
private corporations.
that-
Yeah,
No,
I think
that's
all
not what I'm
John's saying
saying,
is that
but we
conservatives
need-
are saying that it's their take that climate change is a liberal conspiracy, and it's not. It's science. It's real.
Yeah.
It's
a
science.
scientific question.
Yeah, and it's being answered scientifically, and it's really being answered in front of your face.
well, with the evidence that we know.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Brian. Chris, it was
Thank
a pleasure. Great input.
Yeah,
That's-
especially about the feminist stuff.
Yes.
I got a whole new angle on that now.
I got that was very good. Very good. That's the show. That was episode 26. Coming back next week. More people, more fun, more conversation. Thank you all for listening. Just share the goddamn thing on your social media if you listen to it. It's not that hard.
Please,
I'm not
just-
asking for donations like
Yeah.
every other podcast.
Just click a couple buttons. I guarantee. I
Yeah.
know a lot of what we all post is bullshit. So this is better than some of the stuff I see you guys posting.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
All right.